guys, how are you? Well, look, had a final productive day in Israel. Today I was mostly focused on meeting with the Ministry of Defense in Israel, understanding the security situation on the ground in Gaza, and obviously meeting with some of our military personnel as well. I mean, the whole purpose of this trip was to try to understand how to make the peace stick, how to move on to phase 2 successfully, and a big part of that is just understanding what would be necessary to police and secure Gaza so that on the one hand, we can provide stability and hopefully some humanitarian assistance to the Gazans, but on the other hand, ensure that Hamas is unable to threaten Israel. So, well, I do, and in fact, not just me, but the entire team. I know Marco's going to arrive in just a couple of hours. Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are in Saudi Arabia, and then I believe right now they're actually in the UAE. Trying to marshal support for the International Security Force. It's very early, but I do think that we've made a lot of progress in understanding what the composition of the ISF would look like and understanding what would be necessary for it to actually be effective, and then just to understand how Central Command is going to work with the troops who are going to actually be on the ground. Again, no American troops on the ground, but American troops supervising and mediating the peace, understanding what that relationship would look like. That's really what I was here to do. I think we did make some progress. I'm going to go back home and continue to work on it.
So what, Vice President?
Yeah, go ahead. We'll do it. Yeah.
The West Bank vote yesterday that took place while you were in the country.
Oh, yeah, that was weird. That was weird. I was sort of confused by that. Now, I actually asked somebody about it, and they told me that it was a symbolic vote, some symbolic vote to recognize or a symbolic vote to annex the West Bank. I mean, what I would say to that is when I asked about it, somebody told me that it was a political stunt, that it had no practical significance. It was purely symbolic. I mean, look, if it was a political stunt, it was a very stupid political stunt, and I personally take some insult to it. The West Bank is not going to be annexed by Israel. The policy of the Trump administration is that the West Bank will not be annexed by Israel. That will continue to be our policy. And if people want to take symbolic votes, they can do that. But we certainly weren't happy about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, we'll have a good trip here. You guys are sticking with us through the Israel ride? It's important, in particular, over the next couple of weeks, that we keep the ceasefire together. The Vice President is there now, and he'll be returning tomorrow and has great reports on the progress we made, but there's more work to be done, and we know that, so the first couple of weeks are going to be key. And then the work will begin of sort of building out the permanent process, of the going to the UN potentially and getting the international mandate, building the international defense security forces. So there's a lot of work to be done, but we certainly wanted to make sure that we were there and ensuring that we had the right people in place at the coordination center, which is key to holding this all together. We think it's important for the first 7 to 10 days over the next week that we had senior level administration officials on the ground working to make sure this was all coming together. So obviously Steve and Jared have been there for most of the week. They've now moved to some other countries they've been meeting with in the region. The Vice President will be there through tomorrow, and then I'll have a chance to be there. But this is a big priority. This was a historic peace deal that President Trump delivered on, and now we have to make sure that it continues and that we continue to build upon it.
What do you make of the Israeli Parliament moving forward on potential annexation of the West Bank?
Well, that's a vote in there. Yeah, that's a vote in the Knesset. But obviously, I think the president's made clear that that's not something we'd be supportive of right now, and we think there's even threatening to the peace deal. So they're a democracy. They're going to have their votes. People are going to take these positions. But at this time, it's something that we think it might be counterproductive.
And are you concerned with moves like that from the Knesset, but also like settlers on the ground in the West Bank? There's been quite a lot of violence reported.
Yeah, I think it's all going to work out. Ultimately, there are a lot of. This is a complex part of the world. I think every day is going to bring opportunities, and it's also going to bring some challenges. Okay, we're dealing with decades and decades of this stuff. Every day is going to bring challenge. Every single day, something's going to pop up that we need to fix, or it could harm this effort. But every single day, I think we're also seeing things we never thought we'd see before, like the number of countries willing to participate in this effort, be it through money or personnel or both or expertise. And we've never seen this sort of international cohesion behind something.
Progress on getting together an international force?
Sure, we're making progress on that, and you know, it's a combination of things. Putting together a force like that requires a lot of work. It's not just people willing. It's not just countries willing to offer forces. You got to have life support. Where are they going to live? How are they going to get there? How are we going to? What is their mandate? How is that force going to be commanded? What are they allowed to do? What are they not allowed to do? All of that work is happening, which is why we have the civilian military structure set up to coordinate all of these things. And it'll involve, potentially, we're going to need, some of these countries are going to require an international mandate in order to be able to send forces abroad. But we have been very pleased at the number of countries that have offered to train police officers, that have offered to send forces, that have offered to send money, that have offered other expertise. And we're working through all of that now, and that's why important for me to go see this center on Friday. And I think both Jared and Steve had very positive meetings in both Saudi Arabia and in Qatar and in the UAE, which I think they're going to UAE, very positive meetings with all of our partners in the region about what they're willing to contribute, and countries outside the region as well. We're not ready to announce those, but countries outside the region, including majority Muslim countries outside the region that are prepared to offer things that you really wouldn't have thought they've never done before. Look, we'd like to see civil authorities, Palestinian civil authorities in Gaza eventually. That's what we're aiming for. We'd like to see Palestinian police forces in Gaza that are not Hamas and that are going to do a good job. But those still have to be trained and equipped. So absolutely, I don't know if it's part of this trip or another trip, but that is part of the plan that's been outlined and everyone's agreed to.
Are you concerned about Hamas repression of Gazans and reprisals
it's
against
horrifying.
Gazans?
I think we've seen what they've done. I mean, they've gone out, they've gone after, they've tried to make sure that everybody knows that people perceive that they're in charge, and they did it with brutal force. His images were out there. They were putting the images out there.
להלן תוצאות ההצבעה 25 בעד, 24 נגד.
I declare that the bill titled The Application of Israeli Sovereignty over Judea and Samaria Law 5785-2025, proposed by Knesset member Avi Mott, has been approved in its preliminary reading and will be referred to the Foreign Affairs and Defence Committee for preparation for its first reading.
מירב כהן נגד.
רם בן ברק.
רגע.
Been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.